How's going guys, welcome to the channel. In this video we are gonna see, what if Naruto got abandoned by his family and becomes the 7 sins of the Namikaze. Part 2. If you want to see awesome fanfiction like this, don't forget to subscribe. Now let's get into the video. Can we trade? He asked. No way, I'm not sitting next to the creepy guy with no pupils. Answered Hawk. I guess you're going to have to stand Jericho. Naruto said, making the woman sigh, unless you want to sit on my lap. He said, making her blush. Why would you even suggest that? She almost yelled. Then just stand behind me because that pig isn't going to move. He said as the pig had the face of determination. And the epic saga continues. Konoha 8 years ago, age 6. Naruto was bawling his eyes out as he ran back to his apartment and locked himself inside. The reason was not for the constant belittling or hate from the villagers. It was the secret he uncovered from the man he saw as his grandfather. He went snooping around the Hokage's office and found a file with his name on it inside his birth certificate. His real name, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, son of the 4th Hokage and Princess of Whirlpool, Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki. Not only that, there were notes of them being alive and leaving with his sisters he didn't know he had. Asumi and Narumi, both holders of the 9-tailed fox's chakra, while he contained the tailed beast soul. He saw the letters and messages revealing that they left him on their own accord right after the fox attacked, letting the toddler know he was hated for holding the demon fox itself. His pseudo-grandfather lied to him all those times asking about his parents, and here they were alive and abandoned him. He cried all night in his crappy apartment, thinking his parents left him because they didn't love him. He was alone and nobody loved him, and the Hokage was probably torturing him behind his back. Sadly, Naruto was too discouraged to confront the old man about this, let alone dig more into the information of his parents. Age 12. Naruto soon found himself inside his dream, something inside him felt off as he kept tossing and turning, feeling as if half his body was burning while the other half felt frozen. Suddenly the dream pulled him into a bright new world filled with lots of greenery. The boy woke up and felt as if part of his face was burning, forcing him to clutch part of his face in pain. Meliodas, he's here. He heard a soft female voice. So that must be him, he's pretty short for a warrior. Said a male voice. You're one to talk and you've led the 7 deadly sins. He turned and saw a beautiful woman with blue eyes and silver hair, next to her was a short young man with blonde hair and green eyes. As the two had their little conversation, the blonde man noticed Naruto noticed them. Oh hey, are you Naruto? Asked the blonde man, receiving a confused look. Yeah, that's my name, but who are you two? Naruto asked the two, who looked at each other for a moment, then smiled and nodded. Well Naruto, this is going too hard to explain, but we're your great-grandparents from centuries ago. Said the silver-haired woman. In a nutshell, we're ghosts, but we can still feel each other. The blonde man said the last part as he groped the silver-haired woman's large wrists, making her face turn red as she whimpered in embarrassment. Meliodas, please stop. We just met our grandson, that doesn't mean should mentally scar him. She said as he continued to grope her. Sorry Elizabeth, but you know this is how I show affection. The man now named Meliodas said as he stopped and kissed her cheek. Grandparents, so you two are related to me? Naruto asked. Of course, we are. We wanted to meet our descendant. Said Meliodas. We have a lot to talk about, Naruto. Added Elizabeth with a bright smile. For the next hour, the three sat down on the grass as they regaled Naruto in their story thousands of years ago, just before the era of the Sage of Six Paths, where there was this kingdom named Lions where Elizabeth was the princess and Meliodas was a holy knight assigned to guard her family. Meliodas went on about his history thousands of years before, about how he met Elizabeth's previous incarnations and the curse that caused his immortality, followed by the Great Holy War, followed by the formation of the 7 deadly sins. A group of 7 individuals all bearing the mark of a beast with their own unique abilities, and how they were framed by the demon clan, who possessed the 2 holy knight grandmasters after they killed the original grandmaster at the time. Elizabeth helped them reunite after hiding and saved Lions, only to discover the conspiracy of the demon clan, which led to saving the kingdom of Lions and later the kingdom of Camelot. However, it didn't stop there as the demon clan's elite chosen by the demon king himself were unsealed and returned to the world. The 10 commandments released demons onto Britannia as the elemental nations were called before the Sage of Six Paths changed everything. Eventually the sins won and defeated all but one of the commandments, Zeldris, Meliodas' second younger brother who was loyal to the demon king. Sadly, Lions was engulfed in another holy war and his best friend Ban was turned into a dark being of energy called a tailed beast in the shape of a fox. Naruto immediately recognized that Ban must be the fox trapped inside of him, which Elizabeth confirmed looking at his seal with her goddess eye. Meliodas and Elizabeth both explained that they would pass on their demon and goddess abilities, as they knew the village would want him dead, but he had a much bigger role to fulfill. After helping him get an understanding of his abilities, the couple went on to explain how they froze their friends and hid them around the elemental nations. As for Ban, Elizabeth had her own sealing techniques developed that was greatly advanced compared to those of modern-day seal master and found a way for Naruto to free him from his aggressive state. For the rest of the time, Meliodas and Elizabeth spoke to Naruto and comforted him about his feeling of abandonment, knowing the truth of his family, however the two did their best to cheer him up. Meliodas wasn't good with words or understanding of family, which left Elizabeth to talk to her grandson in order to help with his depression. Through their talk, Naruto learned about the concept of protecting people that are precious to him, which led to him thinking about the few that care like the Ichirakus and his sensei Iruka Yamino. After their long talk, the couple passed on their equipment and abilities. From Meliodas, his wrath, the sacred treasure lost vein, one of his outfits since apparently orange, didn't cut it for the sin of wrath either, and note for Ban from the both of them. From Elizabeth, her goddess eye along with her wings, her sealing arts and a technique to summon members of the goddess clan, it was something the modern people of the elemental nations called a summoning contract. So, this is goodbye huh? Naruto asked, looking down at all the objects his ancestors left him only to get a tap on the head. Don't think of it as a bad thing, fish cake. Besides, now you know that you have family that cares about you and even more waiting out there for you. Meliodas answered as Elizabeth nodded in agreement. Just because you won't see us anymore doesn't mean we'll drift away. We'll always be at your side cheering you on from the sidelines. Elizabeth added. We never had the chance to meet you, but we see how great you'll be, maybe you'll make a bigger name for yourself. Whatever happens, we'll be proud of you. Meliodas finished only to be surprised as he and Elizabeth were both engulfed in a hug. Thank you family, it's all I wanted. He cried as the two hugged him tightly as the world soon began to fade away. Remember about the family you have waiting for you. They both said, goodbye Naruto. Thus, the two disappeared and Naruto woke up to find all the items in his arms. He quickly recalled his dream and now sported a look of determination. A new mission fell upon him. Reunite his family, first the one stuck in his gut. A few months later, Naruto eventually learned how to activate his eye, and after the use of his summoning contract given to him by Elizabeth, the boy found himself in a realm similar to heaven. There he met the new system established within the goddess clan after the last holy war ended. After his initial arrival, his eye went off on its own, revealing his identity to the angels and other inhabitants of the realm. Naruto then explained to the goddess council who he was, and they searched his mind for lies only to find the truth and accepted him through some pure of heart test that invaded his mind. Finally accepting him, the goddess clan declared Naruto worthy of being their summoner and granted him a familiar named Selene, who had yet to earn her own wings. From then on, they had worked on teaching him the sealing arts which Elizabeth established, along with the abilities they've obtained since the dawn of their existence. During this time, they studied his seal and found a way to free Ban from his insanity as the nine-tailed fox. Ban was freed through a quick scuffle and learned about Naruto's true purpose of freeing him, thus beginning another year of training under the now Bijufi deadly sin. Afterwards began our story of finding the rest of the 7 deadly sins and remnants of the Kingdom of Lions. Present day, I know, you were all waiting for this. Naruto now stood in the doorway, behind him was his father figure Ban the fox sin of greed and his new friend Hawk, a pig that turns into any magical animal he eats. I ask again, what are you doing here? He asked the two people in front of him. Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, his former parents who willingly abandoned him for the sake of raising 2 other children and then replacing him with another child. As he looked behind them, he could see one blonde and one redhead with a smaller redhead holding her hand, his biological siblings. Next to them, 2 of the Sannin Hiruzen Sarutobi's former students, Jiraiya the Toad Sage and Tsunade Senju the Slug Princess. Sachi Minato began but heard a feral growl, Naruto, we're your parents. Another growl, this time from Ban. We've come to take you home. At that point he received a door slam as Naruto didn't want to waste any of his wrath on his birth father or anyone else. However, before he could go back, he heard more constant knocking on the door. Go away. He shouted only for more knocks, I said go away. He shouted as the knocks constantly became more consistent. I'll deal with them. Ban said, rolling up his sleeves, keeping his 3-piece weapon on hand as he opened the door. Can't you damn people leave us the hell alone? You forgot him for most of his life, why would he want you now? He asked, shouted, making some of them flinch. The red-haired girl Narumi decided to speak up, what would you know? You're the reason his life is miserable. She shouted only for her knees to fail her as Ban emitted his kai. I'm sorry, was I the one who abandoned him? No, was I the one who beat him into an inch of his life? No, was I the one who started hunting him like a wild animal on his birthday? No, was I the one who kicked back eating lobster, walking on the beach, and expecting to get everything right back, returning to a village that was practically destroyed and leaving a baby behind for the village to kill him, only to be defended by an old man who's close to knocking on death's door? He shouted the last part. So, tell me, what exactly have you done that's so great? What have you done worthy of him coming back to your family when he has a new one who accepted him with open arms? He asked, still emitting his kai. Tsunade decided to use her grade A first grade English speaking skill, Japanese in their case, on Ban. Stop lying, stupid fox, you and Saratobi sensei are just trying to guilt trip them. Now tell that dumb brat to come out, and Tsunade soon found herself punched and sent flying 100 meters. Their pathetic excuse for a kunoichi have no right to assume lies. The only good thing you're for is being a band-aid, other than that you had to hide behind a pervert and pedophile, earning your title narrowly after surviving a fight with Hanzo. Ban said coldly as Tsunade was shocked to see her body was unable to respond to her movements. Ban soon looked to see several chakra chains around him. You know, this would work if I was still insane. He started as he flexed his biceps as the chains themselves cracked and fell apart. The thing is, I was never normal before I became a biju. He added, now if you excuse me, I'm going back to sleep. He said casually, putting his hands in pockets. What nobody thought he noticed was Minato and Jiraiya preparing Adama Rasengans. The two charged him, not knowing Ban was about to strike back, only for a fast blur to pass his sight. The fox in soon turned to see Naruto drawing out Lost Vein and his short sword about to block both Rasengans. Full counter. He shouted, sending both jutsus back, obliterating their owners. The smoke cleared, revealing Naruto in his basic curse mark stage, as his eyes turned dark purple and lost his pupils, but maintained a less than satisfied look. Come on Ban, I don't have time to put up with stupidity. He said, getting a nod only for several sets of chakra chains coming towards him. Naruto quickly dashed away and started making copies of himself to start cutting down the chains. Sachi, please, come home so we can be a family again. Shouted Kushina as tears formed in her eyes. You had nearly a decade and a half hoping to train two girls to use one trick that they lost. Then you replace me with that. He pointed at Menma, who was hiding behind his sisters. Now you have the audacity to want me back. Why? Because I have more potential. Because you can't handle someone else giving me love. Or is it to boost Jiraiya's ego so he could be recognized as the guy who saved humanity because of that toad's crappy drawings? He asked, getting a shocked look. How do you know about the prophecy? Only the toads know about it. Asked Jiraiya, feeling concerned. You forget about the other powerful summons and the ones who came before them. He said, confusing them. Thousands of years ago there were only two clans, and one of them is currently sealed away, and the other was the one who initiated the concept of animal summoning. However, some became rogue and were either hunted down or left in hiding until the clan itself disappeared, leaving species like the snakes and toads to move around as they wish. Naruto explained, getting confused look except for Jiraiya, who knew the story since Fukasaku and Shima explained the story based on what Gamamaru was able to remember, but never knew who started the summoning contracts. Well then, how do you know the story? What summon do you have? Jiraiya asked, only for Naruto's wrath to go down as he takes off his jacket, revealing his two large wings with two smaller ones beneath them. The goddess clan, but modern legends call them the angels. He says, shocking only Jiraiya and Tsunade, as they were the only ones to hear the tales of an angel summoning contract. Something rarer and possibly more powerful than the stories of dragons and hellhounds. Now that's enough for tonight. Naruto said, covering his wings and turning back around the tavern. Come on Ban, I'm not in the mood and the exams are in a couple days. Wait, we're not here, brat. Shouted Tsunade in outrage. First the kid is too stubborn to come back to his family, next she had her butt kicked in a single strike, and now the brat claims to have potentially the rarest summoning contract. Really? Because I'm done with you. He said, not looking back. Without warning he pulled out Lost Vein as he slashed at multiple chains, making them shatter faster than they appeared. I said. I'm done with you. He said, looking at his sisters and Kushina. Before Kushina could say anything, she felt a slam in her face and fell hard on her side. She looked up and saw a freak of nature bow before the captain of the Order of Scraps Disposal. Hawk shouted. Now fear my form, tyrant dragon. He shouted, confusing the three women. Dragon? Kushina asked. Dragon? Hawk responded. Dragon? Kushina asked again. Dragon? How many times do I have to repeat myself? He shouted, beware my flames. He shouted as Kushina braced herself only to look up again to see Hawk panicking as fire came out of his snout. Hot. 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 He panicked. You really need to practice that. Ban deadpanned, then stuck out his hand, not looking at what he grabbed. Minato looked in shock, seeing his Rasengan was stopped again without effort, but smirked as he saw Jiraiya finishing a seal and running towards Ban. Now sensei. He shouted, getting Ban's attention as Jiraiya placed a seal and activated it, smirking at Ban's surprised look. Fuin. The Toad Sage was interrupted. The seal was negated and sent him flying back. Nice try, but I have my own safety seals. Ban said, putting chakra around his torso, revealing a white rune-style seal on his back. So, the angels went ahead and said something about a bunch of guys wearing nail polish with black cloaks covered in red clouds. Long story short, they want to get my power, which involves possibly killing Naruto, so Fishcake decided to put safety seals on me. Ban said, shocking everyone in Jiraiya who recently heard about the akatsuki. Ban, let's go back before we waste any more time. Naruto said, getting a nod as the two in Hawk, who was still nursing his nose, walked. Just as they made it the entrance, Naruto quickly caught the tri-pronged kunai and smashed it in his hand. I'm done with this banter. He said coldly. Minato soon tried using his signature technique, only for everyone and his family to find themselves surrounded by purple squares. Merlin's here. Hawk said as his burns healed up. Took you long enough, beautiful. Naruto said, looking up to see Merlin float down with Escanor and Gother at her side. Well, I would have. Wait, what did you just call me? Merlin asked, suddenly blushing. I said woman. Naruto lied, keeping the same face, while Escanor felt jealous and Gother tilted his head. Not even Escanor could make someone as serious as Merlin blush. As a big brother, I should congratulate him. Gother thought. Merlin still kept her blush. Oh, okay. Anyways, I recently felt the presence of your wrath building up and I had to wake these before changing. She explained. Merlin, Escanor and I were the only ones who changed. You on the other hand took of your clothes and put a jacket on before we left. Gother said, making Escanor blush, remembering the fact that Merlin is always wearing revealing clothes. Anyways, what happened and why does it involve these people? She asked as Sarutobi arrived with several Anbu on his tail. Naruto, what is going on? He asked, looking around to see the Uzumaki Namikaze family trapped in their mini prisons along with his former students. Good, now I don't have to explain myself twice. Naruto said, and he began to explain how the family woke him up wanting to bring him home, which led to a small scuffle involving them attacking Ban and them trying to grab Naruto with their chakra chains, only for both attempts to fail, ending with Merlin trapping everyone. Sarutobi sighed as he rubbed his temples, looking at the family and his foolish students. I guess as long as your power is kept under wraps and you have Ban under your control, should he run wild, then I can dismiss the situation. He said, getting nods from Naruto and the Sins. As for the rest of you, I do not want a repeat of this incident, especially attacking the nine-tailed fox when he's restrained. In other words, I want you all to stay away from Naruto unless he approaches you first. Sarutobi said, getting shocked looks. Sarutobi, you can't just separate us, Minato started but was interrupted by a raised hand. You had nearly a decade and a half, yet you suddenly persist as if you've been close all your life. Why should I feel any sympathy for you? He asked. Tears in Sarutobi, there is no way I'm letting you separate me from my baby. Kushina shouted in rage. I could always keep them here, Naruto's predecessor couldn't break free from these cubes without his full power. Or I could transport them somewhere else. Merlin suggested. Just do that, I'll move the boar hat somewhere more secure in the morning. Naruto said. As you wish. Merlin said, ignoring his ex-family's protest as she transported them to the other side of the village. Since nothing too problematic happened, I will dismiss myself. I will see you during the Chunin exams, Naruto. Sarutobi said, earning a nod as he disappeared along with the Anbu. Thanks Merlin, I'll see all you guys in the morning. Naruto said. Good night, little brother. Gother said, using his signature peace sign. Good night, Mr. Naruto. Said Escanor politely as possible. Good night. Merlin said last before transporting herself and the other two back to the hotel. Naruto, Ban and Hawk went back inside, continuing their sleep. The next day. Everyone got together and prepared their training with chakra. Naturally, the three misfits were most eager in hopes of proving themselves. The three women were still nauseous at the feeling of the chakra coursing through their bodies, and Slater was being held down Escanor as Merlin started acting out of character and stroking his temporary whiskers. Okay, everyone, I hope you're excited to learn about using your chakra. Naruto said as he pulled out several pieces of chakra paper. Before we get into those boring exercises that Ban will want to start off with, I want to see what everyone's affinity is. He said, passing everyone a piece. So, the basic rules are that it's possible to have more than one, but secondary or tertiary affinities might be weaker than your primary, and like what I said about wood, 2 or more affinities could create a custom one. Ban started, for fire it will obviously burn and turn to ash, wind will split in half, lightning will wrinkle, earth will crumble into dirt, and water will become wet and damp. He finished as everyone took their turns. Slater went first as his just crumbled into dirt, pretty strong only to earth, I'm sure that will easy to figure out. Said Ban. Veronica went next as her paper became wet and partially wrinkled, mostly water, that might tough, but I'm sure lightning might best to start off with. Said Naruto, giving his aunt some hope. Bila's paper started burning before exploding, seriously? If you didn't want your affinity checked you could have just said so, didn't have to blow it up. Fire's pretty easy to learn though, so good for you and your cute eyes. Said Naruto. Wait, what did you just say? Gila asked, sporting a blush. I said good for you. He responded, hiding the truth. No, after that? Gila demanded. After what? He asked, looking confused as Ban and the rest snickered. Never mind. She said in frustration, however that red on her cheeks was from something else. Jericho went up next, ignoring the joke, her paper split in half with one side dampening and the other piece turning into ice. I wish that Hakugai was still alive, only ice user I know, but then again at least you get to spend time with your new best friend, who's one of the few wind users here. Ban said, pointing towards Naruto. Now for the misfits. Hoser went up, feeling eager as his paper split in half with one of the sides turning into dirt. Cool, we can both work on magnet release later. I'll see you Jericho after basic are done. Hoser. Naruto complimented the only member of the trio who wasn't his uncle. Dilthinder went up next, creating wrinkles and damps. Like I said, water is a bit tricky, lightning is already your strong point, so we'll start there. Gil merely nodded. Briamore was also eager and quickly turned his paper to dirt, just earth again, at least it's a good element to use for defending against most elemental jutsu and physical attacks, you might want to work with Slater on that one. Ban beepized. Okay, that looks like everyone has their affinity checked, we'll work on a few control exercises before trying to increase your reserves. So, for now Ban's got a training schedule for all of you to follow. Naruto said as training began with his least favorite exercise, tree climbing. Then they would move on to water walking a couple days later before teaching them some basic jutsu. 3 days passed and with the help of Hendrickson and Dreyfus, Naruto and Ban managed to help everyone gain the hang of the exercises. For some reason Gother stuck around after somehow finding a cheerleading outfit with pom-poms, hoping to find some energy into motivating everyone. At least his rather feminine figure made it less disturbing for some of the men, as he still had that neutral tone, despite yelling out positive things the whole time. The rest of the week passed and through some practice, the Jinchuriki and his beast learned that everyone's reserves were high chunin to low jounin level, making it difficult to perform low-level techniques like the clone jutsu. Naruto had some bad flashbacks that day, but he moved on teaching them his shadow clone jutsu, which in turn did scare some of them, knowing that they had a copy of themselves running around on their command, sending back memories once they dispelled. By the last day, Naruto had explained the concept of the Chunin exams and how difficult they may be to Dreyfus and Hendrickson, seeing if they wanted to let their assigned holy knights in, while mentioning that all Jounin senseis will likely be nominating the genin that graduated 3 months ago. After a long talk, the 2 former grandmasters decided to go for it, knowing that their assigned students have already had years of experience in the battlefield except for Veronica. Then again, the girl has shown progress rather quickly and has started learning her elemental manipulation earlier than the rest. Next there was Gila and Jericho, who have been trained to guard her, but then there was the fact those 2 almost killed her the first time when under the influence of demon blood. They banished the thought as they looked at the 3 women working together on a jutsu Naruto told them about after they finished their chakra control exercises. In the end, the 2 agreed and decided to let their students join in the test. Even if they didn't earn promotion, they could still earn experience in what the shinobi world looks like. The day before the exams, Hokage Tower. The Jounins except for Kakashi arrived and quickly eyed the 2 new arrivals, a man with white hair and white armor and a man with long brown and red armor with shinobi headbands around their arms were among them. After an hour, Kakashi finally arrived as he was seen forcefully dragged by several Anbu that Sarutobi sent, revealing that something was off since their Hokage was less relaxed than usual. Remind me to re-evaluate everyone on their rank, clearly some people assume the rank they have warrants freedom to do whatever they wish. Sarutobi said in a neutral tone. Well Hokage-sama, I was on my way until the Cyclops was interrupted. Kakashi, I swear if that ends with a lie, consider your Icha outlawed from the village. Everyone gasped at the Hokage's claim as Kakashi paled. I have no good excuse, I was reading my favorite literature. He said, quickly waiting for a nod of approval. Okay, now that is away, who will be nominating their teams for the Chunin exams? Sarutobi asked, getting everyone out of their stupor. Everyone. One of the rookie 9 sensei nominated their genin, just as Iruka began to speak up, only to be silenced by Sarutobi who didn't want to have any of it. After a long argument about them being ready, he did point out to Iruka that Kakashi was the one who joined Anbu literally within a decade of his life. Thus, the argument ended and it was time for the 2 former grandmasters to speak up for their teams. I, Dreyfus, nominate Team 11, Griamore, Gilthinder and Hoser for the Chunin exams. I, Hendrickson, nominate Team 12, Gila, Jericho and Veronica for the Chunin exams. Sarutobi raised an eyebrow at the 2, but concluded that Naruto must have explained the exams and predicted the senseis nominating everyone, despite being fresh out of the academy. All the other sensei eyed the strangers and the people they named, as they weren't seen around the village and neither were their supposed students. He dismissed the Jounins for the day, leaving them all to let their students know about the upcoming exams. Meanwhile with Naruto. Our favorite blonde was currently walking Hoser and Gila, showing them around the village. Usually starting off with the raiment stand, the two were skeptical at first, but surprisingly almost converted to Naruto's raiment-based religion. After several dozen bowls, note that a third of these were consumed by the former holy knights, the trio moved on to looking around the village, checking out the sights, until they saw a large figure dressed as a cat, holding a little boy by his shirt. Naruto immediately recognized that the boy was Konohamaru and dashed behind the catsuit boy and placed Lost Vein behind his neck. "Well punk you should," the catsuit kid was interrupted, feeling cold steel near his neck. "This could end in 3 ways, but I'll let your friend here with the fan decide," Naruto said as he made copies of himself with Lost Vein surrounding the catsuit and pointing blades to his throat. 1 I end you here, 2 I turn you into the Anbu for hurting the grandson of the Hokage, or 3 you put him down, walk away and pretend your life wasn't going to end," he said in a cold voice, making the catsuit feel cold sweat. "Or maybe you'd like to speak to your angry Jinchuriki friend watching from the tree," he added as the two nin looked back to see a redhead who looked less than happy. "Kankuro, you are a disgrace to our village," he said in a cold neutral tone. The boy now identified as Kankuro stuttered. "Shut up or I'll kill you," he threatened as Kankuro put Konohamaru down. "I would like to apologize for my siblings' behavior," the redhead said. "I see, can I assume you Sunanin are here for the exams?" Naruto asked, eyeing the kid and noticing his strange aura. "Yes, I am Subaku no Gaara, and who might you be?" the redhead named Gaara asked. "Naruto Lions," he plainly answered. "I will hope to see you in the exams, Naruto Lions," he said, leaving with his 2 siblings in tow. "Noted," he said to himself, turning to Konohamaru and his friends Mogi and Yuden. "Okay, what happened? Did you trip on your scarf and blame someone else again, Kono?" he asked the boy, who looked at him strangely. "Who are you?" Konohamaru asked as Hoser and Gila walked up, getting out of their daze from Naruto's intense confrontation. "Kono, how many blonde guys with whiskers do you know?" he asked, getting a confused look from all 3 of the kids. "How many guys have hit you over the head not caring who your grandpa was?" he asked. "Nai-san?" he asked, getting Naruto to roll his eyes. "Yes, Kono," he said in a plain tone. "Wait, if you Naruto, then why did you say your last name was Lions and not Uzumaki?" he asked in curiosity. "Oh, that, I found my long-lost relative and she adopted me," he said, getting a shocked look. "I'm a Lions now." "Wait, so who are these guys?" he asked, pointing to Hoser and Gila. "These are my other friends who just showed up to the village, this is Hoser and Gila," Naruto answered. "Hey brats," Hoser said. "Nice to meet you, Kono," Gila said politely. "Boss, is she your girlfriend?" Konohamaru whispered. "No, Gila here rejected me earlier," Naruto answered, getting a blush from his female companion and a laugh from Hoser. "No, I did not," she defended herself. "So, do I have a chance?" he asked. "No. I mean," Gila turned to see Naruto hold his knees as he buried his face in them. "Don't worry, I'm sure Jericho or Merlin will at least give you a chance." Hoser tried to comfort Naruto, already knowing this was just some joke his fellow blonde was pulling. "Anyways, I'm just helping show these guys around since they just joined the Shinobi Corps," Naruto said, getting out of his fake depressive state. The group talked for a bit before the Konohamaru Corps left, leaving Naruto to finish his tour before Kakashi appeared in front of them. "Hey Naruto," he said, eyeing the blonde's new appearance. "Can I help you, Kakashi-sensei?" he asked as the Jounin gave him the sheet and explained the Chunin exams, but quickly found the sheet back in his hand, signed. "Already aware, I'll see you in the academy tomorrow," Naruto said before the Jounin vanished. "I'm actually pretty excited for the exams," Hoser said in excitement. "Indeed, it may be a good learning experience," Gila added. Naruto helped the 2 make it back to the hotel, ending the tour as they had to prepare for the exams in the morning. The next day, Naruto quickly put on his vest and tie as ran off early to start the exams. Making it first, he had to stop at the entrance to wait on his least favorite people in the world. I bet you forgot those 2, eh? Leaving him there waiting for a half hour as exam takers were already on their way into the building. After a long wait, Sasuke showed up looking like he hated the universe for some reason, while Sakura had hearts in her eyes as usual. The 2 soon stopped as they noticed him. Surprisingly, Sasuke recognized Naruto first as he activated his Sharingan to search for a Genjutsu. "You going to keep staring at me or are we going to take the test?" he asked, making the Uchiha break out of his concentration. "Dope. Where the hell were you the entire week?" asked Sasuke as Sakura nodded in agreement as usual. "Visiting family," Naruto answered as he started walking and prompting his teammates to follow him. "You're an orphan, you don't have a family and never will," screeched Sakura. "So is Sasuke, but you don't hear anyone complaining about him being an orphan," Naruto said as she blushed, realizing what she just said. Surprisingly, that grew a tick mark on Sasuke's head. The trio moved on until they saw a crowd building up near a doorway to a room with the wrong number, considering they are on the wrong floor. Sasuke, don't say anything. If they can't see something simple, then they aren't worth your time. Naruto said, getting Sasuke's attention. For Pete's sake, there's a Hyuga right there, literally one Dijutsu ability, and he doesn't even know how to use it. If Itachi wanted weak prey, he would have went after them, don't you think? Naruto asked, egging Sasuke on as he agreed. The three left without a word, but didn't notice the Hyuga and his team, who heard the blonde speaking. The bun-haired one slapped her forehead at a simple mistake. The bowl cut also realized his mistake and promised to do a large number of unorthodox things should it happen again, and the Hyuga fumed for being disrespected and for not noticing something foolish and simple. Regardless, the new trio followed Team 7 on their way to real testing site. Skipping Lee's confrontation. Wait, how did he show up on the other side of them? Wasn't Team Guy behind them a while before the fight? Afterwards, Team 7 finally made it the exam area where Kakashi was waiting for them and disappeared after giving them whole concept of showing up on time, which they glared at their sensei since he was a hypocrite. Sasuke-kun. The blonde turned and heard a loud screech as Ino hugged Sasuke, earning a burning glare from Sakura. I guess your sensei signed you up too, this is so troublesome. Spoke up a lazy voice who was revealed to be none other than Shikamaru Nara and his friend Choji beside him, stuffing chips into his mouth. Then he looked around. Hey, where's Naruto? He asked. His teammate also appeared. Well, it looks like the rookie 8 is here. Kiba asked, making his presence known, but unlike Team 7, they weren't able to recognize him. Idiots, he's right here. Sasuke pointed at the blonde who looked disinterested and was speaking to some silver-haired genin. So in a nutshell, you have cards that give me just about anyone participating in these exams? Naruto asked the silver-haired man. That's it, anyone on your mind? The silver-haired man asked. Do you have yourself? He asked, making the silver-haired man eyes widen. What? He asked. Do you have yourself in there, or is Kabuto not your real name? Naruto asked, making the man identified as Kabuto sweat. I know, it's ironic, I really don't have myself. Kabuto lied, with this not going unnoticed by the blonde. So, you a genin with several years of experience taking the exams, staying at the lowest rank, we have managed to get sensitive material, such as information on our competitors like that sand ninja and bowl cut kid, but not yourself. Naruto asked, making Kabuto feel more nervous. Yup, I thought no one would bother knowing the messenger, thinking there were several other guys who are much stronger than myself. He lied again. Oh well, I guess you just wanted less attention, too bad you already got a lot, spreading the fact you have other people's information. Naruto explained, making Kabuto sweat drop, realizing this was a waste of time, and he literally just put himself on the spot, revealing he had everyone's personal information. Hey Kabuto, you mind doing me a favor? What is it? Kabuto asked, feeling alarmed again. Move. Naruto shouted as he grabbed Kabuto by the shirt and moved him aside as a genin covered in bandages punched the floor, only for him to receive a heavy kick to the face. Wow, thanks. Kabuto said in appreciation as the bandage-wearing genin was helped by his teammates, leaving the rest of the rookie 9 in awe and Naruto's speed and strength. Those thoughts were interrupted by a loud voice. Okay, break it up, sound genin, you two blondie. Now everyone gets inside and take a number, you'll be sitting wherever your number is assigned. Shouted the man. Okay, sorry, but I have skipped this part, we all know what happens. Naruto panics, very few figure out the meaning of the test, and people like Sakura, not counting the hidden chunin, wasted their academy career studying chakra theory, hoping it would make up for something. Sadly, this was not one of those moments. And they made fun of my book, smart Sakura thought. The hour finished with Ibiki Marino explaining the concept of the test, crushing the pink-haired girls' parade. After that, a woman in a rather revealing outfit with a pineapple-shaped hairstyle busted through the window. Again, the next part was in Training Ground 44, the Forest of Death. At the forest, Naruto caught up with Veronica's team, finding himself in her embrace. He found himself catching up with them before the men showed up. I see everyone had issues with it like I did. Naruto stated, earning nods from everyone except Grimmore. I didn't see too much trouble with it, father made sure I studied a lot before I made it as a holy knight. He said while Gil and Hoser remembered how Dreyfus would always push the occasional book smarts instead of running around with a sword or lance in hand. My father did the same, he would go ballistic when he found me playing swords with the men, and not because I made Grimmore cry. Veronica said as the large man in question blushed, remembering how Veronica was the strong one when they were kids, while Margaret preferred to keep roughhousing to a minimal. Everyone chuckled at Grimmore's expense before they saw Naruto catch a kunai in without looking away and snapping it in half before backhanding the empty space behind him, only for it to be filled by the pineapple hair-shaped proctor to fill that space. The fellow leaf shinobi attacking a comrade. Let alone the one I once called my sister. Naruto asked in a neutral tone, making the woman look at him shocked. Whiskers was all she thought before moving back to her position before announcing the next stage of the exams. Naruto, did you have history with the proctor? Gil asked, placing a shoulder on Naruto. That lover of my aunt, he started, making him blush, was Anko Mitarashi, someone I thought I could trust until I was abandoned again. Even now I have doubts about certain people, it's the reason for my occasional change in attitude. Naruto explained, leaving more questions than answers. Anko finished her explanation of the 2 scrolls and waivers that need to be signed, thus beginning the second stage of the Chunin exams. However, right before they started, Naruto utilized Ban's lessons in being a pickpocket and took the scroll from Sasuke, knowing the Uchiha had no chance of hanging onto it until the end. Regardless, he gave his goodbyes and went off into the forest with his team, not noticing the strange stares behind them. A little while later, Naruto went off on his own to relieve himself while Sakura and Sasuke were talking about some kind of strategy until they heard several loud snaps and a squelch. Before they could react, a body was tossed towards them. The disturbing part was that the head turned 360 degrees once it stopped. The two took to the trees, disregarding the safety of their teammate, only to run into a female grass ninja. The female toyed with Sasuke, making him use up all his chakra before going up to his neck and biting him, making Sasuke scream in pain as a strange tattoo-like symbol appeared on his shoulder. When the time comes, you will seek me out for power, said the grass ninja, only to be hit by another corpse. The woman looked up to see Naruto climbing up towards her. I wondered when you would show up. Your friend Kabuto not only turned into a red flag, saying he had everyone's personal information, but he reeked of snakes as well. There are only 2 traitorous snakes, one who hurt me and one who wants to hurt Konoha. Naruto explained, can you really call it revenge, Orochimaru, or this your way of bitching? He said, mocking the grass nin, who fumed as she ripped of her face, revealing a pale man with long hair. I see I've been discovered, regardless I will make quick work of you. Orochimaru said, pulling out his sword from his neck. I heard you've been seeking out immortality, yet you can't do anything about the fact you're slowly becoming senile. Naruto stated, pissing the snake Sannin off as he pulled out his short sword and lost vein. I will make you eat those words. I am a Sannin boy and you should know your place when fighting your superiors. Orochimaru said, trying to release a heavy amount of Kai, only for Naruto to smile and activated his own curse mark, shocking the Sannin. You sound like Tsunade, and she's just a useless band-aid. What does that make you? He asked, taking a stance. Orochimaru fumed at the boy's arrogance, while the rest of Team 7 prepared to watch Naruto take on Orochimaru, but was shocked as Naruto revealed the darkness around his body, to the point where he started growing demonic-looking wings. No holding back, and you better not be pathetic like your teammates, Naruto said. I will show you the power of a true shinobi. One more worthy than that rookie blonde who took what was rightfully mine, shouted Orochimaru as he dashed at Naruto, who prepared for the assault. Boss, is she your girlfriend? Konohamaru whispered. No, Gila here rejected me earlier, Naruto answered, getting a blush from his female companion and a laugh from Hoser. No, I did not, she defended herself. So, do I have a chance? He asked. No. I mean, Gila turned to see Naruto hold his knees as he buried his face in them. Don't worry, I'm sure Jericho or Merlin will at least give you a chance. Hoser tried to comfort Naruto, already knowing this was just some joke his fellow blonde was pulling. And the epic saga continues. Kusanagi and Lost Vein soon clashed at each other, with both sides trying to one-up the other in their desperate struggle for dominance. Orochimaru may have had decades of experience in nearly all types of fighting, but Naruto used his prior advanced training under Ban, who was stronger than Jiraiya and Tsunade, to make him improve physically and mentally on the battlefield. The two fought fiercely, with neither side showing any sign of missing balance, making each other stay in near-perfect cinch. You've lasted this long and I haven't landed a scratch on you, boy. Tell me who trained you? I doubt the academy or Minato's poor excuse for a student taught you anything. Orochimaru taunted as Naruto's curse mark reappeared and covered his face. Now that would be telling, but let me ask you this. Have you ever seen a real demon? Naruto asked as he charged the Sannin at a faster pace. Orochimaru managed to block and hold down the slash as the blonde was slowly pushing him into a corner. Suddenly the Sannin felt a kick to his head as he fell and rolled away before nearly being stabbed by the sacred treasure. Orochimaru scowled as he saw 4 more Narutos line up and try to take a stab at him, only for the snake to regain his footing as he blocked or dodged all the slashes and stabs from all of the clones. Moments later, Orochimaru managed to stab one of the blondes, causing him to spit out his own blood. As the Kusanagi dropped his body, the Sannin smirked, believing he achieved victory, only to see it disappear and for the other clones to continue their assault. How did you do that? Clones don't leak blood once dispelled, and I can tell it wasn't a blood clone either, otherwise it wouldn't just disappear. Orochimaru stated, only for Naruto to smirk at his naivety. They aren't chakra-based clones, they are based on one of my special abilities. Naruto stated, not wanting the snake to go after his grandfather's sacred treasure and take it for himself. My, perhaps I should look more into you. You are already proving to be much more of a capable fighter than Sasuke-kun. Orochimaru stated as he licked his lips with anticipation. I've always been better, I just let him show off while I played the fool. Naruto stated as his curse mark grew brighter. Orochimaru attempted to catch him off guard, only to take a slash from the back from another clone, before losing balance and using too much energy into his next block from above. The Sannin didn't realize it, but the fight with Naruto was making him feel slow and more fatigued. He was sure it wasn't Genjutsu, and he didn't feel any kind of poison or toxin enter his body. Could this boy possibly have what it takes to keep up with an elite shinobi such as the Sannin? Then there was the strange dark marking around his face, could that be affecting his power? Orochimaru ignored these questions as he violently charged his opponents while sending a couple of mud dragons after him, only for rookie Genin to avoid them and go after him again. As for Naruto, he was feeling the strain of using the full power of the curse mark affecting his body, making part of him feel numb and exhausted, but he had to finish this fight quickly, whether or not he is able to end Orochimaru's life. Naruto took several deep breaths before setting up 6 more copies of himself. I want all but one of you to take cover and prepare that jutsu. He commanded as all but one of the clones left his surrounding. You can give me cover while deal with the snake. The clone nodded as the two went after Orochimaru, who made several mud clones of his own. The pair managed to cut down most of the clones with little effort, not realizing that Orochimaru wasn't within the battlefield as he was preparing a technique of his own. A few minutes later the two Narutos managed to cut down all the mud clones, leaving them frustrated as to where the real Sannin was hiding. The two looked up to see several barrages of snakes falling around, forcing the doppelganger to dispel after succumbing to hundreds of snake bites, while the real Naruto burned away the snakes that surrounded him. 5-pronged seal. Naruto turned to see Orochimaru flying towards him with purple flames of chakra on his fingertips. Orochimaru smirked, thinking his power would decline and shut down on the blonde, disbelieving that his abilities were not based on chakra. Just as his fingers were about to reach Naruto's navel, his hand was grabbed by a strong grip that created a loud crunching sound. The pale man looked up to see Naruto was less than thrilled and only making his tighter. You honestly believe I would let someone as petty as yourself touch me with your dirty fingers? Naruto asked in dark tone. Petty? Me a Sannin, you dare call me PAGHH? Orochimaru screamed as he fell on his knees trying to break his hand free of Naruto's grip. With one hand sign Orochimaru summoned a couple of mud clones, grabbing Naruto's attention long enough for the snake to remove his hand and free himself, only to fail to notice the attack from behind. As Naruto dealt with the mud clones he smirked at his copy hitting Orochimaru from behind. As the snake fell face first into the ground, another clone hit him in the back with the same jutsu. The snake immediately recovered and attempted to swipe at the clone, only for it block as the other kicked him the face. Damn brat. Was all Orochimaru said until receiving another hit from behind. Here you are being bested by the kid using the technique of your rival student. I'm starting to see why the old man didn't pick you. Naruto said as Orochimaru fumed, who continued his swipes only for them to be blocked, followed by 2 more techniques revealing to be the Rasengan. Orochimaru had enough, sure he was patient, but he already wasted enough time being caught off guard by the boy. Sending another mud dragon and several more clones, Orochimaru took to the trees plotting an escape, realizing that he wasted too much time already, as the Anbu might have located the corpses of the grass nin he killed. As for Naruto, he avoided the dragon and finished of the remaining mud clones, and taking to the trees as well, only to find that Sannin had already escaped. Then he turned his head to see Anko heading towards his direction, promoting him to lower his curse mark. The blonde boy kept a straight emotionless face when she landed beside him. He's long gone. Naruto said in a monotone voice. Anko growled, knowing that the man who betrayed her as a child escaped her vengeance. She then looked up to see Naruto stare at her with a bored expression. I will be off now, my teammates should be here somewhere. He said, turning only to feel a hand on his shoulder. Whiskers, I wanted to tell you. Anko was interrupted as Naruto shook off her arm from his shoulder. Save it, I already fought one snake, I'm not going to bother fighting another. Naruto said coldly as he began to walk away. Whiskers, please, you have to understand that she was interrupted again. Oh, I understand, alright, you already had your reputation as the Snake 4, so you couldn't handle being called the Fox 4 either. Well, if you want to talk about reputations, then you can wait until Gigi's next announcement and see what people have to say about me next. Naruto shouted as he left in a swirl of fire. Anko was taken back as she fell on her knees, thought about his hurtful words. She soon found herself crying, the one thing she hasn't done since Orochimaru abandoned her. Whiskers, she said before sobbing. As for the blonde, he placed an illusion around him before finding a large tree branch to sleep in for the night. The next day, with Veronica's team. Man, what a pain. Veronica complained as she sheathed her sword and started taking a drink from her bag. I guess that's ninja for you, even when you're sleeping they'll attack. Jericho said, retying her hair into a ponytail. Or in your case while you are bathing, Jericho. Gila said, making Jericho blush in embarrassment. If you two weren't so merciful I would have murdered them. Literally there are no rules against it. Jericho said, glaring at their captives. 3 rain ninja with some kind of insane asylum fetish, according to their straitjacket-looking clothing. 3 men were tied to a tree covered in bruises and heavy cuts all over their body. Sometimes you have to be merciful, Jericho. Besides, have you ever killed anyone? Asked Gila. No, but I know who was almost your first kill. Jericho answered as her face turned towards Veronica, who raised an eyebrow. Immediately after, Gila started bowing rapidly and apologizing to Veronica for almost blowing her up all those years ago. Jericho face-palmed at the action. Okay, Gila, get over it. We really need to hurry. I bet the boys already made it to the tower. Jericho said, making the 2 nod as they packed up and left the rain ninja behind, but not without taking their scroll. A while later, the trio heard heavy fighting along with several gusts of heavy wind. The strange fighting was a red flag, but decided to investigate it anyways. As they approached they saw 3 genin in grey clothing, 1 female, 1 boy with black spiky hair and a boy with bandages over his face. The sound trio were standing over a boy in a green spandex who was knocked out, along with him was pink-haired girl who wasn't lasting too long. Wait, I know that girl. Gila whispered, getting a raised brow from her teammates. Really, who is it? Asked Veronica. I didn't get her name, but I think I've seen her along with a raven-haired boy and Naruto. That could likely be her teammate. Gila explained. Naruto's team, then where is he and that raven-haired kid you talked about? Jericho asked as she looked around and only saw Sakura not doing so well. Naruto may have a bit of a dark side, but there is no way he would abandon his teammates, so there is a chance he's not too far. Veronica beepized, making the 2 nod. Maybe we should help. I mean, from the looks of it they all seem pretty wounded and I'm sure Naruto wouldn't mind the assistance as long as they don't fight us for the scrolls. Gila explained. We gotta try, besides if something happens to that girl then Naruto could be disqualified. Don't you think, Veronica? Jericho asked the purple-haired girl who beepized the sound genin. The girl looks like a hand-to-hand fighter. I can take her. Jericho, you take the spiky-haired boy and Gila, you take the bandaged boy. Understood. The 2 holy knights nodded. For precaution. Veronica said as she pulled out a smoke bomb Naruto gave her along with several other supplies. The princess tossed a bomb, immediately blocking everyone's sight, but the 3 girls who charged in and all grabbed an opponent and got to work. Veronica made a dash for the dark-haired girl who was caught off guard and was barely able to block Veronica's sword with her kunai, but a few sword strikes later and the girl dropped her kunai and fell to her knees as her hand got slashed as well, prompting the Princess of Lions to grab the sound girl from behind, keep her blade close to her neck. Checkmate. Veronica said, smirking as the sound girl growled. Jericho ran after the spiky-haired boy with the strange headpiece and began to slash at him, prompting the boy to block the attacks with his gauntlet, not realizing that he was only damaging it. Jericho saw his struggle and decided to speed things up. Godspeed, cross-slash. She shouted and ducked from his decapitating airwaves, only to attack his chest, creating several scars around it with the help of her long sword. Not giving up, the sound boy kept taking swings and kicks at her, which Jericho either dodged or blocked every time until she found another opening by stabbing near the joints of his arms and legs, leaving him temporarily vulnerable. Jericho quickly kept her foot above his chest while keeping her sword around his neck. Finally, Gila snuck up to the bandaged nin as she lit a fire on her rapier before the sound genin turned and saw her while he prepared his own attack. The bandaged boy fired his attack, but Gila managed to jump out of the way as she charged him with the flames still ignited on her sword. The bandaged sound genin prepared to block, only for Gila to come close and ignited an explosion, causing the sound nin to fly back. Gila remained unfazed and went after the boy, who quickly got up and fired several more waves of sound, only for Gila to use her shot bombs in order to combat the sound waves. It was strange to see, but the fires managed to block the attacks, while the extra shot bombs hit their target, sending him flying into a tree well covered in burns. Before the bandaged boy had a chance, he looked up to see Gila nearly decapitating him by thrusting her rapier near his head. "I suggest you surrender," said all 3 at the same time to their respective opponents, making the sound genin growl in frustration. Suddenly everyone turned their heads at the noise of someone clapping. After a moment they turned to see Naruto smiling and clapping. "Naruto Baka, where the hell were you? You left Sasuke-kun all by himself. Then you go ahead and leave, then come back clapping. I hope you." Sakura stopped screeching the moment a boot hit her in the face. "Okay, now I lost a good portion of my hearing," Naruto said casually as he stuck his pinky in his ear while walking to retrieve his boot. "Nah, Naruto, where were you?" asked Veronica. Sorry to worry you, dear aunt of mine, but I dealt with a man who could summon snakes, fell asleep after straining Meliodas' power, then suddenly heard fighting and saw you guys throw a smoke bomb. After that I watched and prepared in case this went south fast. Naruto explained. Anyways, Aunt Veronica, you did well on disarming your enemy. Gila, you reacted quickly while still preparing your attack. Good job. And Jericho, you were spectacular in avoiding getting a scratch and defeating your opponent fairly quickly. Naruto continued as he made the girls blush. You might want to knock them out. The girls nodded as they all hit each Sannin with the hilt of their individual blades. Naruto then sent a shadow clone to each body before finding a scroll on the bandaged boy's body. Thanks you three, I probably wouldn't have made it in time and failed the exams along with getting those two killed. Naruto said, grabbing the scroll. We were worried about you, Naruto. Veronica said. Veronica was the one who was worried. We couldn't see you, so we decided to help out your team, Gila said with indifference. Aw, don't pretend you didn't worry about me, Gila. I get Jericho because she believes in me, but I can see the look of worry in your eyes. Naruto teased, making Gila blush and look away, while Jericho laughed at her dismay. Anyways, we've already got our scrolls and you have yours, so we'll be on our way. Veronica said before giving her nephew one more hug. Okay, I'll see you and the guys at the tower. Naruto said, returning the hug. Naruto waved goodbye to the girls moments before Sasuke woke up with weird black marks around his body. Needless to say, he needed to make sure the idiot was going to become dangerous and quickly put him down with an arc. Sadly for Naruto, he spent the entire afternoon dragging the two around on the dirt as he was mostly sore from fighting Orochimaru. The blonde eventually made it to the tower entrance but decided to study the mark Orochimaru put on Sasuke's neck. Something about his attitude and weird marks set off a lot of red flags, which prompted Naruto to study the seal. Summoning jutsu. Michelle shouted Naruto as a young man in his early adult years appeared. He had brown eyes, black hair and was dressed in a men's dress outfit with a purple beret. He had a bored expression until he saw Naruto. Ah, Master Naruto, do not mind me asking, but is Selen not your familiar? Michelle asked. Yes, but I need something done which only someone of your caliber can complete, Michelle. Naruto said as he raised Sasuke up and showed his curse seal. I am no miracle worker, besides his hair already looks like a duck's behind and those shorts with that logo on his shirt. Do not get me started, it would be better if you had Dominus look at him for fashion instead. Michelle criticized. Not the boy. The curse mark on the boy. Naruto said, feeling annoyed at Michelle's antics. Michelle soon picked up the boy and started sketching the mark and quickly beepized every detail while also taking several measurements and blood samples. I see, I will get back to you on this. For now you might want to keep a seal around it to negate its activation. Something isn't controlling the boy, as his will is strong, however it doesn't mean he won't be motivated to use it more. Said Michelle, finishing his sketch and disappearing. Naruto nodded and quickly placed a negating seal on Sasuke's shoulder. He scanned it one more time before dragging both teammates into the room and opening the scrolls. Iruka appeared looking surprised before Naruto explained Sasuke's situation, along with Sakura just being lazy, as the Chunin could see her smiling, moaning about her Sasuke-kun. Iruka's sweat dropped before helping drop them off and reporting the curse seal to the Hokage. Naruto would soon end up finding himself speaking with Sarutobi about his fight with Orochimaru, along with how he sent one of his summons to study the curse mark that was placed on Sasuke. Sarutobi sighed at the fact that his old student returned and was plotting something, while Naruto risked his life and attacked him, regardless of how powerful he really is. Naruto was then dismissed, leaving the Hokage alone in the room in the tower to contemplate what to do about the exams. You can stop hiding, Jiraiya. He said as the kabuki-dressed man appeared, Yututsu Nade. The busty middle-aged woman in the form of a 20-year-old also appeared beside her former teammate. Do you want to explain what you were doing spying on my conversation? Sarutobi asked, already feeling frustrated. Well, sensei, it's about Naruto. Tsunade stopped noticing his glare. We took the time to look at his perspective, and I speak for Jiraiya as well when I say we want to know him better. She said with a hopeful smile. Sarutobi scoffed, 14 years and you just want to know him better, that's what you call it. 14 years of loneliness and you assume if he doesn't accept Minato back he'll accept you too? Sarutobi asked, taking a long smoke. Sensei, I know we screwed up, but now that Naruto is the true child of prophecy, Jiraiya stopped as he felt the Kai in the room rise. So now that your prophecy has changed, now you want to spend time with him. And if he wasn't, what then? The old man asked, feeling his patience run thin. It's not like that, we would have eventually made it back, but now is the best time to start his training. Jiraiya poorly elaborated. Eventually? What exactly were you going to do if he wasn't your so-called child of prophecy? Sarutobi asked, actually feeling curious to this question. The two looked at each other, quickly trying to say something. Meanwhile, the old man just sighed at his two students. Two people he was proud of ever since their days as genin to one day becoming the legendary Sannin after fighting Hanzo the Salamander. Now here they were not remotely realizing their mistakes, but hoping to not look like the bad guy in the story. He hoped that one day one of his students would take what it became Hokage, but sadly, he realized the mistake of placing the job on a man who was too young for the job, a student of Jiraiya who abandoned the village in its time of need, believing Iwa wouldn't attack, believing the Hokage was dead, while the current Jinchuriki was now an infant with no access to his Biju. Sadly, Iwa only stepped back due to issues of its own, involving its own alliances with Kiri with their civil war, and Kumo had its own relational strains. I only have myself to blame, I played favorites and let my best student develop an inferiority complex which made him turn traitor. Now his rival's son is seen as the beast contained within him. To make matters worse, the beast only recently it turned out to be a normal man who lost self-control and is currently a stable shinobi. Sarutobi said, shocking the two. If you want to make amends, you better hope Naruto accepts you. Now if you will excuse me, I have exams to run in a couple of days and a traitorous student to deal with. Sarutobi said, leaving the two Sannin to their thoughts of how to approach their godson. Day of the preliminaries. Sakura and Sasuke woke up days earlier with barely any memory. Sasuke demanded Naruto to explain what happened only for the latter to completely ignore him. Now here they were hearing the Sandaime speaking about the purpose of the Chunin exams as a way to avoid war and bring honor and clients to the respective villages of the competitors. Sarutobi finished his explanation and passed it on to the proctor. A sick man named Heiichiko was about to step up until the aged Kage stopped him and mentioned for a last-minute change. Heiichi spoke out his concerns. Hokage-sama, I can assure you that I am as healthy as a whore as healthy as a whore as healthy as a whore Heiichi wanted to continue until the Hokage spoke up. You're as healthy as a four? Sarutobi asked with a face of shock, although everyone else in the room was laughing at the statement. Regardless, the new proctor isn't healthy as a four, but healthy regardless. Sarutobi said, gesturing for someone that surprised Naruto. The proctor was none other than Escanor, the lion sin of pride, but for some reason he was in his scrawny feeble form, wearing the Jounin vest over his barkeep outfit, along with the Konoha headband over his forehead. Hello everyone, my name is Escanor, and I will be guiding you fights, so listen up. The matches will continue until someone forfeits or is unable to continue. Killing is allowed, however I will step in when possible. When I declare a winner, I want you to stop immediately, otherwise I will be forced to intervene. So remember, it's over when I say it's over. Escanor sang the last part as if his voice almost reverted to its daylight self. I guess I still need to work on those glasses, his prideful self is leaking out. Naruto turned to see the owner of the voice belonging to another sin, Merlin to be precise. She walked close, revealing her change in attire from her half-naked coat and panties to the standard Jounin garb, standard undersuit, flak jacket, headband wrapped around her forehead, followed by black ninja sandals replacing her boots. Naruto also looked in the corner of his eye to see several Jounin like Kakashi, staring wide-eyed at Merlin, and for some reason, he could see shadows covering Kurenai's eyesight as he could detect Kai coming off from her. I guess you decided not to reflect your beauty off your body. However, I think you made another Ice Queen feel inferior. Naruto said, making Merlin smirk, noticing the chakra coming off of Kurenai. Well, not my fault she chose to wear bandages and not dress properly. Merlin said, making Kurenai fume. You're one to talk, your new outfit is preventing the nosebleeds. Naruto said as an idea popped in the sorceress's head. You know, I feel pretty restrained. She said, unzipping the jacket halfway down, revealing she modified the Jounin sweater in her own design, revealing a little cleavage, making Asuma's cigarette burn out completely. Kakashi's face mask turned crimson red as he tossed away his orange book, and Guy made an indescribable face, but it had something likely to do with the flames of youth. Ah, that is so much better. Oh, but I feel cold now. Care to keep me warm? Merlin asked without waiting for a response and wrapped her arm around Naruto. I'm glad I could help, you can always count on me to be a warm shoulder, Merlin. Naruto said, pretending to be oblivious but playing along with Merlin, with the older woman resting her head on his shoulder. Escanor, you would assume he would be jealous, but he doesn't care, as he was laughing at everyone else's reaction toward the flirting. He turned his head to see several people either with nosebleeds or getting furious. Troublesome, you just had to get everyone riled up, Naruto. Thought Shikamaru. Lucky bastard. Thought an angry Asuma and Kakashi, looking at the genin with contempt and some envy. Youth. Thought Guy. Merlin, don't encourage him. Thought Gila and Jericho. Who is that slut resting on my Naruto-kun? Thought an angry Hinata, who turned red from anger and not from embarrassment. Where the hell did the dope get a beautiful woman from? She should be with an elite alpha like me. Was the simultaneous thoughts of Kiba and Sasuke. Who is that woman? Why do I feel jealous? It can't be because of Naruto, but why do I feel like I'm getting less attention? Thought a jealous Kurenai. Ahahaha, I can't believe Nai-chan feels inferior, the Ice Queen is picking a fight with an iceberg. Thought Anko Mitarashi. I like tacos. Thought Shino. Everyone's head turned to the sound of an electronic screen revealing several names on it. Everyone please pay attention and stop glaring at Ms. Merlin and Naruto, your matches are about to begin. Stated Escanor, grabbing everyone's attention. Yoroi vs Sasuke Uchiha. Like the original story, Sasuke won through using a bastardized version of Lee's fighting technique, however the Uchiha failed to activate his Sharingan for some odd reason, as the curse mark itself also failed to activate. Sasuke had a more difficult match without the use of his Sharingan. Despite the victory, Sasuke felt hollow for some reason before Kakashi took him to get the curse mark temporarily sealed. Isume vs Kankuro. Same as canon. Zaku vs Shino Aburami. Same as canon. Doji Akimichi vs Dosu Kanuta. Same as canon. Rock Lee vs Gaara. Same as canon. Naruto noticed the strange look and attitude Gaara gave off. The blonde, along with Merlin, knew that someone should keep an eye on the redhead. After a quick beepization, Naruto knew that it would be rather difficult for Lee to be able to heal from his near-death wounds. He would likely have to use his goddess powers to help speed up his recovery. Jericho vs Temari. The Sand Kunoichi smirked as she jumped down as Jericho did the same. Escanor looked at both girls, who kept a hand on their respective weapons, signaling that they were ready. Begin. He shouted as the Temari drew her fan, shooting gusts of wind at Jericho, and drew her blade while maintaining several stances, preventing the wind-based attacks from reaching her. Temari raised a brow as she felt confused but shook it off as Jericho dashed towards her. The lavender-haired girl managed to avoid several more wind strikes, finally reaching the blonde girl. Temari was surprised at how easily Jericho avoided the wind attacks and came to the conclusion that Jericho was another wind user. Jericho started striking at Temari with her long sword, only for the attack to be blocked by the giant metal fan she carried around. Jericho soon found herself on the defensive as she was hit with the fan after dropping her guard, seeing her blonde opponent reveal her skills in Bujutsu using her fan as a medium. Temari smiled, realizing that her opponent would be forced to fall back. Despite her speed, Jericho wasn't able to land any direct hits on Temari, as her defense and speed were enough to block the attacks. Give up, little girl, why don't you give up and stop being a disappointment to your family? Temari said with a smirk as Jericho growled, remembering all the times her older brother Gustav belittled her for wanting to be a holy knight herself. Jericho refused to give in to her opponent's tactics and closed her eyes while breathing in and out, clearing her mind. 7 deadly sins ost big sum. Jericho slid back from the fight and quickly did a single hand sign, shadow clone jutsu, she said, surprising everyone as she summoned 11 clones to her side. 10 of you hold her off, I need one of you to help me with something. They all nodded as 10 of them drew out their respective swords and went after Temari, who kept her beepy smirk. Do you really think a few illusions will stop me? She asked as she let the first clone come close, proving her point, not realizing that this wasn't the standard clone jutsu. The clone smirked as it avoided Temari's fan, kicked her in the gut, sending her back. What the hell? Those clones are solid. She asked in shock, noticing all of them have individual shadows. Temari soon rolled away and ducked as she used her fan and dispelled the first clone, only to be blinded by the poof of smoke. With this distraction, she ended up taking another hit, forcing her into a corner on the defensive. Meanwhile, Jericho closed her eyes and started doing a few more breathing exercises as she put her hands in front of her as if she were waiting for a handout, while the clones stood in front of her, making people feel confused. Step 1, rotation. In her hands a small beam of energy could be seen spinning. Step 2, power. The beam could be seen turning into a sphere-like, shaking with ripples moving around it. Kakashi raised an eyebrow at what she was doing. Step 3, containment. The sphere started turning into a perfect ball of chakra, surprising many of the jounins in the room, especially a certain redhead hiding behind a cloak. Step 4, nature element. She shouted with a face of determination as the clone started leaking elemental energy into its hands and transferring it onto the rotating sphere of chakra, making it slowly mix in with the power of water and wind, slowly turning it into ice. Temari managed to finish off all the clones, only to block an attack from another one. As for Jericho, she kept control of the jutsu in her hand and started dashing towards Temari, who was struggling to push away the clone. The clone smirked as it dispelled, creating another smokescreen, distracting her long enough for Jericho to land her attack. Ice sphere. She shouted as she made direct contact with the fan, turning it into ice and shattering it before making Temari fly back and hit the wall behind her. Before Temari could register the attack, she felt the longsword close to her neck. Why don't you go home and play make-up with your brother, little girl? Jericho said with a smirk as Temari looked wide-eyed, noticing that her fan was completely destroyed. Tamari hanged her head, realizing all her attacks relied on that fan, leaving her unable to defend against herself. Forfeit. Tamari nodded in fear. End of song. I surrender. She said, making Jericho smile and put her sword back. Winner by default, Jericho. Escanor said, trying to get everyone to snap out of the fact that Jericho made an ice version of the 4th Hokage's jutsu. Good job, Jericho, it took me a while to figure out the 3rd step without the shadow clone helping me. Naruto said, making the lavender-haired girl smile. Thank you for teaching me, Naruto. She said before joining Gila and Veronica. Kakashi for his part was wide-eyed that Naruto knew his father's jutsu. He may not have known about Minato's fake death, but knew for sure that Jiraiya never approached Naruto long enough to teach him. If Sasuke were here, he would have likely gritted his teeth knowing the dead last knew a powerful technique and would have demanded for Naruto to teach him. Veronica Lioness vs Ino Yamanaka. Yeah, I'll show forehead who the true Kunoichi is, and then Sasuke-kun will love me. She shouted, making several people sweat drop while Veronica's eye twitched. Begin. Shouted Escanor. Ino smirked, assuming she was the dominant fighter as she used her family's signature technique. Mind-body switch jutsu, she said, getting a shocked look from Shikamaru. Despite the attack landing, Veronica slowly moved forward, bashing Ino in the head with the hilt of her sword, waking the blonde girl up. Wait. How did you avoid my attack? She asked. Veronica rolled her sleeve, showing a seal. My nephew created this seal so I wouldn't be manipulated. She said before kicking Ino further back into the ground. Ino quickly threw several kunai only for them to be deflected by Veronica's sword. The princess soon found herself in a petty fight between sword and kunai, ending with Ino receiving several scratches on her hand, forcing her to drop the kunai in pain. Veronica soon hit Ino a few more times before pointing her sword at the blonde's neck. I surrender. She shouted in fear. Pathetic, you wasted time looking pretty trying to find boys when you could have learned something as basic as throwing a knife, and to think you're from a noble clan. Veronica said in disappointment, making Ino look down in shame. Winner by default, Veronica Lioness. Escanor said. Good job, Aunt Veronica. Naruto said, getting a hug from his aunt. Thank you, dear nephew, too bad Margaret can't watch our matches. She said, ruffling his hair. She'd probably be satisfied watching Gil and then leave after hours. Naruto said, earning a giggle from his aunt and a blush from Gil, who heard that. Shikamaru Nara vs Grimmore. Troublesome. Shikamaru said as his larger, more muscular opponent jumped down to meet him. Begin. Shouted Escanor. Shikamaru got into his signature stance, Shadow Possession Jutsu. Shikamaru said as the shadow slowly moved towards Grimmore. The next thing the pineapple-headed sloth knew, he was trapped in a purple barrier, cancelling his jutsu. What? He asked as he pulled out a kunai and tried to break open the barrier, only to see Grimmore approach the barrier with the intent to open it. Shikamaru quickly beepized the situation and knew he had no strength or speed to avoid his muscular opponent, let alone defeat him. Grimmore raised his fist with one hand while using his other to about to release the bubble prison, only for Shikamaru to chicken out. I give up. I give up. He shouted, getting an odd look from Grimmore. Winner by default, Grimmore. Escanor said, while Asuma sighed, realizing his team failed the exams before noticing his father shaking his head at the jounin. Hintsuchi vs Gilthander. Begin. The sound Kunoichi quickly tossed several senbon at Gilthander, who blocked them all, giving her time to pull out her bell and strings, starting up her gain jutsu, making Gil see 3 versions of her tossing more senbon. Thinking ahead, Gil charged up lightning in his longsword and blasted Kin. Embrace of the Thunder God. He shouted as the heavy lightning power electrocuted Kin, nearly killing her, but safely knocked her out. Gilthander's eyes dilated, realizing he used way too much power on his attack. I think I went too far. He said, feeling nervous at the high skill of power he used. Winner by knockout, Gilthander. I'm glad Aunt Margaret didn't see you brutalize that poor girl. Naruto said, making the pink-haired man scratch his head sheepishly. I think he may have overestimated his enemy. Said Merlin as she locked her arm around Naruto again in hopes of seeing the reactions. She smiled, noticing the angry glare from a certain shy Hyuga girl. Tenten vs Gila. The two jumped down, waiting for Escanor's signal as he looked at the both of them. Begin. Escanor shouted as Gila kept a defense stance while Tenten jumped high into the air, revealing a large scroll before biting her thumb and rubbing it against the scrolls, then aiming the scroll at Gila, causing several dozen kunai and other bladed weapons to fly towards Gila. Unlike Ino, I will show you a true Kunoichi. Tenten shouted pridefully. Gila, however, remained unfazed and pointed a rapier towards the weapons, firing a few shot bombs to destroy the bladed projectiles from reaching her. You said I will see a true Kunoichi, yet I do not see one. Were you lying to me? Taunted Gila, making Tenten glare at her as she drew her own sword from another scroll. Ooh, is Kunoichi the term for magician? Because I can see one of those. Gila taunted again as Tenten charged at her. I'll show you. Tenten growled, swinging her blade wildly at Gila, who blocked every attack. Through a quick inspection, she could tell that Tenten had moderate speed but no accuracy or patience, letting her strikes revolve around brute force and poor speed. However, she could see the younger girl had some experience wielding weapons but had not taken the proper practice to force her opponents back. Unlike Jericho, her attacks are mainly focused on her enemy's weapon than the enemy itself. The only upside to the bun-haired girl's skill was her stamina, likely not as good as Naruto's, but enough to keep up all the brute force and number of strikes, keeping Gila on her toes. As fun as it is to see you lose your patience and see your weapons as tools and not as companions, I believe my blonde friend would like his turn. Gila said, looking towards Naruto, who's been smiling the whole time, and not from the fact that Merlin is trying to get physically close to spread her wiles. Gila merely kicked Tenten's foot, forcing the younger girl to step back, feeling the hit making her lose balance as Gila struck Tenten's sword, creating a clash between powers. As intense as this was for the weapon's mistress, her fear distracted her from pushing back, causing Gila to shatter her blade. Gila smirked as she pointed her blade at Tenten's face. "Please forfeit, I do not wish to stain the floor." Tenten merely nodded in disappointment as Escanor got the message, winner by default, Gila. The winner was about to leave until Tenten spoke out her frustrations. "Hey, at least open your eyes and look at your opponent before leaving." Gila tilted her head in confusion. "My eyes are open, they are actually very narrow," she said as Tenten studied her, realizing they were very small. "Narrow but cute," Naruto said, making Gila blush. Sakura Haruno vs Narumi Uzumaki Namikaze. Naruto's eyes went wide hearing that name as he saw a certain red-haired girl his age jump down, only briefly looking at him, then turning away as Sakura jumped down to meet her. Naruto merely narrowed his eyes as the jounin looked away, realizing she was spotted. Merlin saw the interaction but decided to stay silent until it was over. Kakashi, however, was wide-eyed, seeing the redhead with violet eyes, knowing that she had the name of his supposedly dead sensei. It was slowly killing him inside as he desperately wanted to know who she was. He knew Sarutobi told him that Naruto was Minato's son and had to hide that fact, which irked him, seeing Naruto's lack of skill, whereas Minato was a natural prodigy. But then again, how could a young girl around Naruto's age with Kushina's appearance suddenly show up out of nowhere? Escanor signaled for the match to begin, but it was over before anyone could blink as Narumi defeated Sakura with several punches, making the Pinkat black out in mere moments. At least Ino managed to put up a fight, whereas Sakura was unprepared for the burst of speed and strength. "Winner by knockout, Narumi Uzumaki Namikaze," shouted Escanor as Narumi stole a quick glance at Naruto, who maintained a look of indifference. Merlin decided now was a good time to speak up. "Naruto, do you know that girl?" she asked. "She's one of my blood siblings, the other one is probably not too far," Naruto said in a monotone voice, actually making Merlin worry about what just happened. "I know what happened between you and your former family, but how do you feel about them?" Merlin asked, questioning his feelings for the two girls who were forced to leave him behind. "I don't hate them if that's what you're wondering, but that doesn't mean I'll forgive them or rejoin them willingly." Merlin nodded, understanding what he was going through. Unlike Hawk, she actually paid attention to the detail of his memories and knew very well of his pain. Naruto Lioness vs Kiba in Yuzuka. "Alright, we got the dead last, this should be easy." Kiba barked as he jumped down with Akamaru by his side. "Milady, as much as I enjoyed your company, I will have to take brief leave," Naruto said, sounding suave as he quickly kissed Merlin's hand. "Oh my, I see someone has been learning from Escanor," she said, secretly holding in a blush as Naruto quickly jumped down to join Kiba. "Ah, I don't even need one punch to beat you," Kiba said, trying to taunt the blonde only to maintain his dopey smile. "Kiba has this one in the bag, I'm sorry Kakashi, but you lose," Kurenai said with a beepy smirk as Kakashi nodded as he stuffed his face in the book. Merlin frowned at the arrogance along with Escanor. The former also noticed the cloak jounin gritting her teeth as her red hair revealed moving around on its own, as if she were angry at something or someone. Merlin merely smiled, knowing how powerful Naruto was since he trained with Ban during his early years in the academy. "Begin," shouted Escanor as Kiba and Akamaru attempted a stance, a four-legged stance. Beast human clone. Just as he said his technique, Naruto merely flicked his hand as a wooden pillar shot from the ground, knocking the two away before they finished the technique. Just as Kiba attempted to call back Akamaru, the puppy soon found himself trapped in a wooden cage as the pillar rose under it, moving the cage high above the arena. "It would be unpleasant to hurt an innocent animal," Naruto said, devoid of emotion as Kiba felt enraged. "Fang over fang." Kiba soon turned into a drill and fired himself at Naruto, only for the latter to merely stop the drill with one hand. How did you stop my jutsu?" Kiba received no answer as Naruto raised his body only to toss him into the ground. After the fall, Kiba felt a foot slam into his chest, making him cough up blood. Pathetic, if my tests weren't rigged and Shikamaru wasn't a lazy ass, I wouldn't be stuck fighting the dead last. Naruto said, confusing everyone. Oh, don't look at me like that, Kiba. I know either or both your sensei and mother broke the third's law and told you what they think I am. If you remain conscious for this, I want you to tell them this. Naruto began as he raised Kiba up by his jacket. What would Kushina say if she saw you now? He asked as he tossed Kiba away, making him slide back. Then again, it doesn't matter because she backstabbed me as well. He said as he could sense Kurenai growing furious. What the hell are you talking about, dope? Kiba asked, trying to get up despite the pain trying to prevent him from doing so. Naruto merely flicked his wrist as another wooden pillar appeared, taking the shape of a human, before it grew a head with red hair and violet eyes, wearing a green dress with pink shinobi sandals. The woman soon looked around before turning around to see a shocked Kurenai. Hello, Kurenai-chan. She shouted, waving at the red-eyed woman. How are you, Ga-chan and Anko-chan? She asked as if she knew Kurenai for many years. The redhead merely looked at her with worry until she turned to Kakashi. Kakashi-kun, what's wrong with Kurenai-chan? Why doesn't she greet her own sensei Dadabang? She said, making Kakashi's heart almost stop. I'm sorry, but that's all the time you have. Naruto said before the redhead nodded in sadness before breaking down into wooden chips. Well, this was more boring than I thought. I guess I'll just finish you off, Kiba. Naruto said just as Kiba attempted a fang over fang again before being grabbed by another wood clone and being senselessly punched by Naruto until he blacked out. Winner by knockout, Naruto Lioness. Escanor shouted, unfazed by all the commotion Naruto started as he released Akamaru from his wooden prison. The cloaked redhead remained gritting her teeth as she saw Kurenai's actions. The red-eyed woman, however, was about to go ballistic on Naruto for knocking Kiba out, while Kakashi has been stunned the entire time since Naruto revealed his wood manipulation. Before anyone said anything, Kurenai gasped, seeing whose match was next. Hinata Hyuga vs Neji Hyuga. Hinata, I would recommend you forfeit now. You are only a hindrance to your teammates and have proven you only entered the exam so you wouldn't hold them back. You are weak and will always be weak. Neji said coldly. No, I haven't, I've changed. Hinata tried to reason. Neji scoffed, no, you were born weak and will always be weak. Once a loser, always a loser. He said, making her look down. Naruto glared at the male Hyuga and remembered something a few years earlier. Hinata. He shouted, getting the Hyuga heiress's attention. Remember the one thing I told you when we were kids? Hinata took a moment to think about what he said before nodding. Begin. Shouted Escanor as the two entered the gentle fist stance while activating their bloodline, followed by a boring lecture of Kakashi, explaining the concept of the Dojutsu of Konoha, when all the lousy teachers, Iruka sadly included, assumed explaining every inch of chakra theory was much more important to explain than the village's noble clans. Surprisingly, despite Ban losing his sanity for several centuries, he was able to explain more history and concepts behind the village's founding to Naruto when he trained him as a child. For most of the match, Neji was far superior in speed as he landed a few more blows on Hinata, however something resolved inside Hinata. Something inside her reminded her of her younger days when she met Naruto. When they were children, she would remember all those times he would push himself to points where his body should have failed on him. Why do I train? To get stronger, of course. Naruto-kun, even back then you knew I was strong, no matter how much I doubted myself. Hinata thought, taking another painful blow from Neji. She looked up to see many worried faces, but then she turned to see Naruto's face. It wasn't of concern or happiness, but one of determination. When you're in pain and suffering and there's no one to lean on, just say these words. What were they? She thought to herself. Neji was feeling contempt, feeling as if he were doing the Hyuga branch family justice for Hinata, letting herself get kidnapped as a toddler, which caused the death of his father Hisashi, was about to land several more blows in hopes of, if not ending Hinata's life, then at least end her career. Thus given Hinata, you've done enough. Kurenai muttered quietly, not realizing the looks of disapproval from Shino, the cloaked woman, Naruto and Merlin. Hinata took another hit to the chest, coughing up more blood before hanging on, barely maintaining her balance. Enough, time to end this. Neji shouted, aiming his hand for the heart. Repeat after me, Hinata. Okay. At that moment Hinata's eyes widened now that she remembered what Naruto said earlier. As the strike aimed for her heart came close, Hinata quickly did a step back with a twirl, avoiding the attack, kicking Neji's arm away, while landing several devastating kicks to his chest, with a left hook below his chin sending him back. All of this was in a mere second. Neji looked shocked and was unable to move before Hinata landed several more foreign strikes across his body at an immeasurable speed, not only disabling his tenketsu points, but his body's joints, forcing his arms and legs to lock in place. As he tried to reopen them, the Hyuga prodigy realized his chakra had disappeared on him, while his Byakugan was also deactivated. You were wrong, Neji. You believe in fate so much you've let such a false idea turn you into the monster that you view my father and the rest of the family. If it were Hanabi you combated you would have been forced to bend to the cage bird seal's will until your mind exploded. She said, making people's spines shake. However, I am stronger than those ideals father has set, making us weaker and made us from a dominant noble clan to as petty as the enemies of the Konoha who waste the lives of their shinobi just to hurt the village for the sake of pride. Hinata finished as she struck Neji several more times, forcing him to fall down into the ground into a paralyzed state. How? How did you do it? How did you defy fate? Fate is absolute. Fate determined my victory and promised justice to the Branch family. He shouted before being slapped by Hinata. No Neji, your fate turned you into the true villain. You were hoping to hurt someone who felt nothing but familial love just to get what you want. But there is one thing that motivated me, the one thing that helped me realize I wasn't weak, the one thing that proved I could beat you. She said with determination, shocking everyone but Naruto, who was now smiling. And what is that? Neji growled. Hinata closed her eyes and breathed in and out before reopening her eyes again. I am now stronger than any of the 7 deadly sins. She said, getting surprised looks from Merlin, Escanor and Gilthander, with the last one remembering those were the words Meliodas used to motivate him to become stronger as a child. Escanor smiled at the brave girl's actions. Winner Hinata Hyuga. He shouted as Hinata got a round of applause from the crowd. It was lived short due to her still coughing blood, leaving her to be taken along with Neji to the medics. Merlin giggled right after grabbing Kurenai's attention, making the woman furious, believing that she was laughing at Hinata's effort. What's so funny? She asked with venom in her voice. Merlin turned to her, keeping her smile. The little weak girl proved to be a strong, capable woman. It didn't take years of knowing her to know she would win. What was hilarious was the fact you lost faith in your student to go as far as pray that she surrender and give in to her opponent's words. Merlin explained, making Kurenai feel infuriated. I had faith in my student, I see Hinata as my own daughter. Kurenai argued. You told her to give in, to practically throw away all her effort, and yet she made it to the finals. I wonder who she'll go to for training. Merlin said, making her smile continue to anger Kurenai, making the ice queen of Konoha shatter before melting and turn into boiling lava. Me, of course, why wouldn't she? Kurenai asked, feeling ready to pummel this stranger. Like you said, you see her as a daughter, and despite telling her to give up you clearly care for her like a mother would a child, but the issue at hand is you're likely babying her the whole way and not helping her find her inner strength. It was only thanks to Naruto here that she was motivated by the strength he gave her. Merlin said in a matter-of-fact tone. The Genjutsu mistress was about to counter again until she realized Merlin was right. Ever since Hiashi practically threw Hinata away under Kurenai's care, she's been nothing but a motherly figure, too much of a mother. She held back and went easy on Hinata, making her self-esteem improve, but not improving her confidence or strengths. Kurenai merely sighed and went back to join Shino and the others, leaving Merlin smiling victoriously. Final match: Kasumi Uzumaki Namikaze vs Kabuto Yakushi. He decided he drew too much attention, dropping out early. The blonde girl with violet eyes moved from her cloaked sensei as she made her way down, stealing glances at her brother who maintained a look of indifference. Kakashi, however, was losing it again. Now a blonde girl who looked like the redeed from earlier made an appearance, claiming his sensei's name. Kabuto, however, kept his chakra down and kept it hidden to avoid anyone noticing his higher reserves. Begin, shouted Escanor as the two battled it out in basic taijutsu. For Kabuto, he respected the girl's speed and accuracy, however power was needed improvement and was rather sloppy when it came to strikes. For the sake of acting he managed to push her back, prompting the girl to attempt the shadow clone jutsu as well, but anyone that paid real attention as she seemed to lose some energy after making 6 clones, almost as if she were expecting more to come out. Kabuto faked his weakness as he took a few minutes to defeat them until he noticed one of the clones was missing and turned to see the blonde girl and her clone charging at him. Rasengan, Kasumi shouted. Kabuto briefly noticed that the technique was rather weak and looked unstable, revealing the power was weak. He internally smiled as he let the attack hit him, sending him skidding back a few feet and falling on his back. Sorry, that technique was too much and my reserves are already low enough as it is. I'm going to have to forfeit, Kabuto said with a fake smile. Winner Kasumi Uzumaki Namikaze. Thus ends the preliminaries. If all the winners are stand and please come down and pick a number in order to organize the final matches. Escanor said as everyone got down and met with Escanor and Sarutobi, who explained the whole concept of how promotions will work along with how the exams are mostly a show to prove village strength. Everyone drew a number, creating the brackets for the final matches. 1. Naruto Lioness vs Kasumi Uzumaki Namikaze. 2. Sasuke Uchiha vs Gaara. 3. Hinata Hyuga vs Gila. 4. Shino Aburami vs Kankuro. 5. Jericho vs Griamore. 6. Veronica Lioness vs Narumi Uzumaki Namikaze. 7. Dosu Kanuta vs Gilthander. 8. Hoser vs winner round 7. Wow, that is a whole lot of competitors, what a shitty set of preliminary rounds, that is way too much people. I have to fight Naruto Nai. I guess I'll have to hold back. Thought Kasumi. I can't do it, I can't handle seeing my babies fight. Thought the cloaked woman. Just great, I didn't get to fight and now I'm being put in last, I really am chopped liver. Thought Hoser as tears fell from his eyes. That girl said her name is Lioness, she must be one of the bitches who stole my brother. Don't worry Nai-san, I'll free you from those evil people and we can be family again. Thought Narumi, who glared at Veronica, who glared back. Sarutobi dismissed everyone, Naruto, out of being funny, picked up Merlin bridal style before leaving in a circle of flames just as his former family tried to get close to him. Kakashi was lost for words but decided to confront Naruto about his skills in hopes of helping Sasuke. The girls, however, felt sad that their brother just left without saying anything as he took the attractive woman with him. Later, with Naruto at the boar hat. Naruto arrived in flames, still carrying Merlin, making Ban, who was there along with Gother, raise an eyebrow. Naruto, whatever is going, I have to be a good father figure and tell you I don't approve of that woman. Ban said. Indeed, and as your big brother I believe Merlin is not the woman you should give your heart to, for she will likely do worse than misplace it. Gother added. I don't care what you two say, I bet mom would approve. Naruto said, keeping Merlin close, who actually blushed at the compliment. You want me to put you down? He asked the sorceress, grabbing her attention. No, I actually like this. Escanor never carries me. Merlin said as she rested her head, keeping a tight hold around his neck. Oh, that's right, speaking of moms, well, you were away. Gother and I researched the last place, he said. Diane and King were out along with Elaine's body and Diane's friend Matrona. Ban said, getting a shocked look. He mean me and several of his clones. Well, the real Ban was drinking and sleeping for the past few days while I researched all the libraries with the clones. So in conclusion, we've determined the old fairy kingdom's forest is somewhere in Taki or the village hidden under the waterfall. Gother said, getting nods from everyone. Good, we'll grab Escanor and anyone else who wants to come along, get permission from the old man to visit Taki, and Hawk's mama will get us here and back within a couple of days. Naruto explained, getting nods. Can't wait to meet mom. I thought your mother abandoned you. Merlin said. My dad did too, but even though I call Ban uncle, I see him as a dad. Ban smiled at the compliment, remembering that innocent adolescent who worked up the courage to fight a Biju in order to save him. From what we gathered, we could revive Ban's old lover Elaine. I hope she accepts me though. Ban may not be able to adopt me, but having family in general is all that matters to me. He said, earning smiles from everyone. Hey, where's Hawk? Training to be a dragon. Gother answered as everyone turned to hear him scream in pain outside before bursting through the window as his nose was burned. Hey, what I miss? He asked, rubbing his nose. We're heading to the waterfall village. They all said together. Wow, really? Why? Hawk asked, feeling confused. To find Diane and King, said Naruto, making Hawk smile. Yay, I'll get mom ready. Hawk said as he ran around, feeling excited. Everyone smiled, realizing the gang was finally getting back together. All they had to do was get Naruto's godparents and potential parent figure. So this part ends here. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, so quickly like this video for second part of this series. And comment down below your thoughts about this series. And now it's time for me to go, bye.